Hello, I'm Lawrence Brown, a hybrid athlete and fitness enthusiast. So after developing and testing, redeveloping and testing, and then redeveloping and testing my own 12-week Hyrox training program, I wanted to share what I've learned on my journey so that you can use it, customize it for yourself, and create your own program or follow mine. I'm not selling or promoting anything. You can see my program now in its entirety on my Instagram. So no need to even watch this video if you want to just copy it. But if you are like me and don't want to take someone else's program as a cookie cutter approach and prefer to understand and personalize it on your own, then this video is so that you can do just that. So I'm not a professional athlete working out 40 hours a week, which means that this program and information is designed for individuals that are juggling life, work, families, and have about 5 to 10 hours a week to dedicate to working out. At the same time, I also don't think this program or even the structure is completely appropriate for beginners, because the first step in that case needs to be building a decent baseline and working on weak areas. For example, many people, if not most, enter Hyrox from a CrossFit background and thus really need to focus first on building their aerobic base before training in a program like this. I personally discovered a love for Hyrox because it challenged multiple facets of fitness. This motivated me to research and refine my training approach. Therefore, much of this video is not just about Hyrox, but about how to become the best well-rounded athlete, which I believe Hyrox tests extremely well. After my first event, I spent months understanding what was needed in training. Eventually, I developed a robust 12-week plan for my second race. The difference was staggering. I improved my second race time by about 17 minutes. I came out of that race still feeling that there was room for improvement, even though I did much better. So I took a step back and trained for a half marathon, and then integrated insights from that training to significantly upgrade my 12-week Hyrox program in prep for my third race, which I completed in an hour and 17 minutes. A further 7-minute improvement, which is ranking in the top 17%. Also, it is important to note that my stations and my running are both equally as strong. And so the program I created for myself is a well-balanced one. But if you are hitting similar overall times to me because your running is a lot stronger while your stations are a lot weaker, then adjustments taking that into account need to be made. Although I would say most of those adjustments could happen in the off-season outside of the 12-week routine. Okay, so let's jump into it. First off, to become a well-balanced athlete or a hybrid athlete, there are 8 elements to think through regardless of whether you're training for an event or for your own personal improvement. So roughly ordered in terms of level of intensity. First off is mobility. So mobility training is really going to just make you better all-around athlete in all of the other areas. Then after that is aerobic conditioning at a low intensity, really establishing a base, making sure our heart can work at an average pace that's conversational for at least longer than you plan to race for. The next session is also aerobic, but at a higher intensity. So anything comfortably hard, pretty much what you would run a 10K at. This could be trained with longer interval sessions, such as 1 mile plus or typical tempo runs. Then after that is lactic acid training, which is really about non-stop work transitioning from exercise to exercise. That's typically what makes Hyrox very difficult, is the transition from running to station with no break. So this is very key to work on. It's typically trained through doing interval running of about 800 meters to 1200 meters, or typically with AMRAPs, workouts of the day at CrossFit, and Hyrox hybrid simulations without any rest. The next area is strength endurance. So this is pretty much anything from 8+ reps before taking a break. After that is our maximum speed. So how fast we can run at anywhere between a 100-meter run and a 400-meter run. So you could practice this on very short intervals, resting after that and going again. So then we have max strength. Max strength would be typically at your 3 to 5 rep max. So it's pretty much as heavy as you can. And then at the highest level is maximum power. So that could be done with weight, like a 1 rep max, or without weight, such as if you go into a squat and then jump as high as possible. The point is that you cannot really do that twice in a row and give it your all. So not just squat jumps, but like really going in and giving it your all of how high you can go. You'll likely need 2 or 3 seconds at least after that just to gather yourself before doing it again. Or you can have a barbell for the same exercise on your back, go down and jump. So that's the 8 areas that we want to excel at for being a hybrid athlete, which Hyrox does test all of it in certain ways, even though we're going to be focusing on not all of them in the race itself. Okay, so let's turn the above into a 12-week program for Hyrox. So the typical program phases will include building a baseline, gradually increasing your load while avoiding burnout, and then tapering for race freshness. Given the technical nature of all the stations, it's also important that as we get closer to the race, the strength being worked on is directly related to muscle groups being used in the stations. So starting off, breaking it up into blocks. Block 1 is base building and getting us organized. There's 4 days in which I have packed 2 workouts in the day. The morning workout is really just a 35-minute workout or run, and then later in the afternoon doing a low-intensity strength session. Importantly, there's no rest day here, and instead there's strategically 1 day focusing on only mobility. So that's really like an active recovery day instead of a rest, just to make things more productive. A 2-week period to really jump into this puts the body into a position to start taking on the rest of the program and higher intensity that's to come. This is especially true if you're coming off of a pure running program or a pure strength program. This really helps realign your baseline to that hybrid nature we're trying to focus on. All right, then block 2. So this is week 3 and 4. This starts building a little bit more intensity, and therefore from now on there's no more 2 sessions of training a day. The strength focus as well focuses around Hyrox specific muscles. I have a specific exercise for each of the stations in Hyrox that targets those muscles used in these stations, and that defines the strength session. Once again, no rest day, but an active recovery mobility day, and also another potential day that I've left open for interpretation, depending on how our body feels, for one of the runs to either be a tempo run or an easy run. I also use CrossFit classes as a base throughout this program because it's well structured to focus on both strength and lactic acid training in the typical strength plus WOD fashion that you'd find in a CrossFit class. But feel free to use a gym or other classes if convenient for you. But make sure that the classes are working for you. It needs to fit the same structure and program we're building here. Okay, then block 3 is designed a little easier before we get into the main block so that I'm well motivated and fresh for it. Personally, I find it's helpful. All right, then jumping into block 4. This is where the magic lies. This is the program. So the structure here has really been carefully put together with what I believe is the magic formula for any Hyrox program. And that is 3 strength sessions, 3 runs, and 1 hybrid Hyrox session per week. If you are entering this with a lower level of fitness, then perhaps skip one of the strength sessions for a rest day or an active recovery day. Otherwise, there's 3 key principles applied here. This block touches on all 8 focus areas that we discussed. Every single week, mileage increases, max weight per exercise increases, even if slightly, and the duration of most of the workouts increases as well. And lastly, very mindful to not burn ourselves out. So I strategically use one of the runs to be an easy run the day after the Hyrox session to get some active recovery I also do quite a bit of recovery work separate to the compression boots, after workouts, sauna, contrast therapy, prioritizing sleep, hydration, diet, supplementation, and so on. Now, how much the duration goes up in workouts depends a little bit on how long you're going to race for and your fitness. I would say long run should gradually go up towards about 2 hours. So definitely longer than you're going to race for. And then the harder non-stop workouts like hybrid Hyrox workouts should trend to about 90% of the time that you're planning to race for. And then the other sessions where intensity, but you have breaks and rest in between them, a good basic build to is roughly about the race time that you're going to be racing for. This is very important because Hyrox is first and foremost an endurance competition. So this increasing structure will really help improve your endurance ability compared to just working out doing the same thing for X number of weeks. This is also why classes are great, but as you will see, they need to be supplemented with more and more unless they are somehow doing this on their own, just to build that added duration over time. Okay, then let's jump into week 11 and 12. So block 5 and 6 is really both about fine-tuning technique and getting fresh for the race. So I like to start off week 11 with full Hyrox simulation. This assesses where I'm at and any weak areas that perhaps with a little bit of technique work in the final 2 weeks, not extra fitness, I can get a little bit of help. This is also about the right amount of time before the race to do that last long and intense workout. But straight from there, I have tapered down to 70% for the rest of that week and then 50% for the final week, which seems to be the best practice out there. And then let's dive into the final week, emphasizing again for freshness with one last power-based session, one last strength endurance session, one last long run, and one last high aerobic session before having 3 key days for resting and priming the body. The goal throughout the whole week is to make sure we don't achieve fatigue in any of the sessions. So always feel like you could give more at the end while still being purposeful and as intense as before. And at this point, it's really just about being fresh and primed. Anyways, I really hope this helps you on your fitness journey, whether it be for Hyrox or just wanting to be better all-around athlete. On this channel and my Instagram page, I'll go into other tips, supplements, advice, equipment recommendations as I personally learn about them. So feel free to follow for more.